So when buying a property in Portugal, you have to pay taxes and professional costs. So taxes are stamp duty, which is a flat 0.8% regardless of the value of the transaction, and transfer tax that we call IMT, which is calculated based on the value of the property. So up until 600,000, it is 6%. Above 1.1 million, that tax is 7.5%. If the property is seen as commercial, which includes properties in tourist developments, tax is 6.5%. So it varies. We can say a maximum rate of 7.5%. Then we have costs with registration, which is not a very significant cost. It's 250 euros. Legal fees and also notary fees. Those costs vary. Each notary has their own fees, but normally they're between 2,000 to 4,000 euros per transaction. Also to confirm if there are any snags or any problems with the property. So the survey fees vary, normally below 1,000. If it is a very complex property that needs a thorough exam of domotic systems, electric systems, it will be more than that. But it's a very valuable work and very important for me as a lawyer to have a survey, a proper survey carried out. So when selling, the most significant cost is really with capital gain tax. The other costs are insignificant. There may be costs with obtaining updated documentation, a land registry certificate, or energy certificate. They may have never been obtained if the property has been on the same ownership for a very long time, or even to re-update one because they're valid only for 10 years. So those are not that relevant. The most relevant is really the capital gain tax. Capital gain tax rate, if it is a company selling an asset, is always 25%. If it is an individual selling the property, it depends. It's 50% of the rate that individual pays in his country of tax resident in the year of the sale. So for example, someone is resident in a country where his personal tax, what we call IRS, is 50%. That means the CGT, the capital gain tax in Portugal, will be at 25%, so half the rate in his home country. And how do we calculate the amount in which that rate will apply to? We take into account the purchase cost of a plot or of the villa. If it is a plot, we can add to that base cost the construction of the house, and we can add always refurbishment costs that have occurred in the last 12 years. We take into account agent commission, legal fees, if properly described in the legal invoice for works, and obviously all those non-significant costs like the energy certificate, all the costs that are had with obtaining the documentation. To that profit, we apply the rate. Now, it's important to know that if people do have residency in Portugal, there are ways to mitigate this CGT. If they are non-resident, which the majority of our clients tend to be, then indeed they have to pay the tax in Portugal and they cannot offset any losses they may have in their countries. So I find that the non-national clients quite like to have a fixed fee agreed from start. They like to know what their charges are going to be. So although we take into account the time and we take into account the complexity of the file, it is easier sometimes for the clients, because that's what they come from, that's what they're used to have a fixed fee. And when we talk about a fixed fee, obviously there'll be an adjustment if the transaction is extremely high or if it's a lower value transaction. But you will find that legal fees in general are fixed between 0.5% and 0.9%.